This is DROdio. I'm the CEO of Armoury, and I'm here with Andy. I'll let you introduce yourself.
My name's Andy Glover. I run delivery engineering at Netflix.
And we're here in beautiful Arizona at an Insight Ignite event, and we were just talking to a room of CIOs about Spinnaker and software delivery and innovation and all of that. So why don't we just share a little bit about what it is that Spinnaker is, why did Netflix create Spinnaker, and what is the problem that it solves?
Yeah, so we defined Spinnaker as a continuous delivery and infrastructure management platform. And ultimately the problem it solves is software delivery, makes it easier, or we could say, safer, more reliable. But ultimately the value to the business is it facilitates innovation. So business comes up with an idea. Ultimately, there's a time between I had the idea, when can I put it in front of end users? And you want that to be as short as possible. And of course, you can do it really, quickly, but invariably you could remove some aspects like quality. And so Spinnaker allows you to create, fashion a delivery pipeline where you can validate, like I didn't break production, and I can roll it out in front of end users in a reasonable amount of time, hopefully as quick as possible, but also with the assurance that it's reliable, it's safe, secure, you name it, PCI, all the aspects that you would want before you actually say this is ready for consumption.
So if I'm a CIO at a Global 2000 company, probably what's on my mind is figuring out how to innovate faster. And I think what I'm hearing you say is, in order to innovate faster, one of the things that a company needs is it needs to have some centralized tooling that enables the company to take an idea and get it out into the world as quickly as possible, but also in a safe way, in a repeatable way, in a way that doesn't nuke the user base when a change is made, in a way that it can be rolled back if it's not working. And so Netflix created Spinnaker to enable that to happen.
Yes.
And one of the things that you mentioned that was really interesting is that Spinnaker is a platform that people can use if they would like to, but it's not a mandated platform. And to me, this gets a lot to just the philosophy about Spinnaker, because I think at large companies, a lot of times these central teams have built tooling that the company has to use.
Yeah.
So could you talk a little bit more about kind of this philosophy and ethos behind Spinnaker to enable innovation by making it something that you get a lot of features for free out of the box?
Yeah. Well, so first and foremost at Netflix, it's context over control. So there's no edict, for example, that software teams use Spinnaker, and that, of course, incentivizes me and my team to build the absolute best product for our end users. And so you talk about, businesses want to move fast, and invariably, and this was happening at Netflix, is teams, likewise, they want to move fast to support the business. And so you can imagine that teams they were writing their own, let's say, delivery tooling, right? So they were like, with their machetes beating through the jungle trying to pave a path to production, and then your team was doing the same thing, and then her team was doing that thing. And what we saw at Netflix was an opportunity to basically say, well, let's consolidate that under like a highway. Let's pave a path so that application teams, you don't need to worry about all that. You can just, like you are on a highway, jump on the car or get in your car, jump on the highway and go 65 miles per hour to Tucson, and not worry about off-roading. But the beauty is that we don't want to then mandate that you have to use the superhighway. It's okay for teams to go off-road because they may innovate and learn something new, and then we can incorporate those innovations back into Spinnaker. And I talked about that pluggability. That was one of the lessons we saw with previous tooling. It was very rigid, and so one team would use it, but then the other teams would go, take the machetes and start hacking through the bushes. And so we wanted this pluggability so that, hey, you can run off, you can hack through the bushes if you need to because you have that responsibility, or that freedom, I should say. And if it's worthwhile, we can then pull that stuff back into this highway. We'll pave that for you. And then everyone wins. And so a great example of like the everyone wins is when we built Spinnaker, you had this highway that gets you into production. And before Spinnaker, there was this special sauce at Netflix, which was our automated canary analysis system. And people had hacked through the bushes and glued ACA into all their different processes. And then there were a lot of teams that didn't have that because they didn't have the resources to hack through the bushes. So they were just like, we would love to get something like canary analysis, but we just can't do it. Once we plugged canary analysis into Spinnaker, all of a sudden it was all these teams that didn't have the resources to hack through the bushes bought the car or whatever and went on the highway. It was amazing. And so you really see this like blossoming of innovation if you can say, hey, look, here's this pluggable thing. You focus on your business domain. If you have a really unique need, go ahead and pave it, and pave it, using this plugin framework, and then everyone gets the advantage of it.
So one really great example that we just saw about what you're saying about this paved road, AJ Lang, the CTO of JP Morgan Chase, just recently announced publicly JPMC's support for Spinnaker. And JPMC has thousands, tens of thousands of application developers, and to have them all be able to get to production in a consistent way without them all off-roading, especially with this proliferation of the cloud and all of these application teams wanting to use different cloud resources. We see companies where there are teams that are just using their corporate credit cards to spin up cloud resources, and AWS isn't just AWS, it's EC2 and ECS and EKS and Fargate and Lambda, and so there's all this just mess that companies, that CIOs, I imagine, are saying, wow, how do I actually tame this? And so what you're saying, I think, is a great answer to that, which is get them on this paved road, but don't mandate it. Make it so that it's easier for them. They'll get access. They all get access to things like canaries in similar ways across all the teams, across all the applications. And that seems very, very magical. Armoury is a company that's commercializing Spinnaker with Global 2000s. And when we go in and we ask these engineering leaders, well, what are your customers saying? What are the application developers saying? What are the problems they have? They're very rarely asking. These central automation teams aren't forced to actually treat their developers as customers. And so I think what you're saying makes that have to happen, which leads to a better platform being built. What are some of your hopes for Spinnaker as it grows up and more people learn about it?
Well, ultimately, so Netflix, our philosophy on open source is, it's great for recruiting. It's great to learn from the industry in terms of like, hey, we open source this thing. If people don't use it, then maybe we're solving the wrong problem. And the key thing with Spinnaker that we're seeing is innovation, and that's special. Open source, people open source stuff all the time, and rarely do people actually, beyond the people that open source it, use it. In the case of Spinnaker, we have a growing community, and they're innovating on Spinnaker, and some of those innovations are coming back and being leveraged at Netflix. So, where my hopes for Spinnaker is that we continue to grow a vibrant community around it. Some portion of that community will innovate. They'll fix bugs, they'll add docs, they'll write new cloud drivers or new stages. And some portion of those may be useful to Netflix, and we'll take advantage of that. Just like some of the stuff that we open source is maybe useful to some companies. And so we all get to learn from each other, and there's not these these towers of knowledge where Netflix is able to move fast but no one else is, or vice versa. Your competitors can move fast and you can't. If we can kind of level the playing field, we can all learn from each other, because that's not really speed is a differentiator, but all Spinnaker is just facilitates speed of like whatever your business does. So we see it ultimately as it's not our special sauce. Our special sauce is something much different, and we want to learn from others and have like a great ecosystem where we can, again, learn from others, but also kind of see some innovations, leverage them, and also share some innovations on our side.
Yeah, it's been amazing to be involved in the growth of this project and to be to see Netflix be so passionate about it. There's over 7,000 people in this community now, over 400 commits a day, and I'm very thankful that Netflix had the foresight to create this and then to share it with the world to help the entire world innovate faster. And so if you're a CIO at a large company trying to figure out how to innovate faster, Spinnaker might be a great thing to not just use, but also to join this community and take that same ethos and help create something that can then go back into Netflix to help it. So thank you and your team for creating this amazing thing that now we're bringing into the world. All right, well, thank you. It's a pleasure.